All right. Hello and welcome to episode 21 of Read the Manga. Today we're going to be talking about Bleach. This is going to be the first of a four-parter. Tonight we're going to be talking about the Agent of Shinigami arc. As Ichigo gets his powers, teams up with Rukia, goes around killing hollows, and eventually has to deal with Rukia going back to Soul Society. All right. Let's talk some Bleach.
Mostly water. And Bleach is mostly water.
Don't drink Bleach.
Therefore, we are Bleach.
No. We are white, though. We actually, in this light, we both look really fucking pasty right now.
My wife did 23andMe and found out that she is
white.
Exactly 0.1% Nigerian. Like 99.9 and then that one.
Yeah, she's like she's Mike Perry black.
But it just makes me think, I'm like, man, kudos to you, dude. Like whoever you were. Or ma'am, you know.
Anyway, so want to start out with because we both read Bleach before. We read it in high school and watched the anime and stuff. What were your takeaways?
Back in high school, Bleach was like a big thing. Like I remember
it was one of the big three.
We go walk over to the Yamazaki. This is like the first time Yamazaki's came up in our podcast. Like
Yamazaki Plaza, the little high. It was like our high school quad.
It was where, like, you know, naturally things separate, like oil and water, and you get the weirdos to separate into their own little nucleus in the middle of this park.
It was just, it was the Yamazaki Plaza was basically just a quad in our high school where all the weird anime kids would hang out.
And it's like you take all the shit post forums for every anime that was popular at the time and just condense them into one.
Yeah,
like that was it. Like.
Yeah.
I remember watching.
We even had a Sharon who was like the token like cute blonde girl that was for some reason into anime and hung out with us.
Yeah, it's funny because Bleach kind of fit that description well of like a bunch of people can come together and be friends even with like their weird differences.
Yeah.
Albeit, I will argue that like the one weakness I have with the beginning arc and kind of Bleach as a whole is like, you know, most characters' reasoning or conversation topics are Ichigo himself. But I mean, it kind of goes like, even in friend groups, you always have a few people that you're like, I wonder how they're doing. Well, I mean, they're kind of like the key friend here. I'm only friends with you because you're friends with them, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of an interesting series because, you know, like Yamazaki Plaza and all the people that would talk about it, you kind of get this weird kind of group of people that kind of hang out. I mean, I do remember not being into Bleach so much because of those people, because they would obsess about it. But then you look back at it and it's like 14, 15, 16-year-olds.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about
it? I think something that I do like about Bleach is the way that Kubo doesn't really conform to typical high school anime stereotypes. Like everyone seems like a very fully formed person and like a realistic person that you could know in high school. Like I mean, Ichigo, he doesn't really fall into that, like, because like you read the first chapter and if you're familiar with Yu Yu Hakusho, you're like, okay, so this guy's basically Yusuke, and then you kind of realize, then you kind of
is like Yu Yu Hakusho a lot.
Yeah, then you kind of realize as the series goes on that Ichigo really is not that archetype at all. He's much more because like Yusuke is very much like a loner and doesn't really give a fuck about his family and kind of finds his friends along the way, whereas like Ichigo right off the bat has a very deep love for his sisters and his father, and he has this deep desire to protect them. So that's like something that Ichigo has that a lot of people don't have in like the early sort of like punk phase of like the shonen protagonist lifespan.
Let's point out the differences between Ichigo and Yusuke as far as they're similar. I mean, like Ruki is essentially Botan in this situation, but like that's the interesting thing about it is like the same kind of initial formula that Yu Yu Hakusho did, and like playing on that. Yeah. And like instead of being a single mom, he's with a single dad.
Yeah.
His dad overly loves him.
Yes.
Overly trying to be involved in his life.
Yes.
Versus most animes, it's like, well, I never see my dad because, you know, like work culture there and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like right from the get go,
Oh,
you can
could I
see
just
that
say
he.
Ishin gets all the dad points?
Oh my god, he is by far probably like top three characters of the first arc. I
Yeah.
honestly love most of the characters, like Bleach. A lot of the characters, like I. This is probably the like going back. I was always like, this is the best arc. I think it goes downhill as it gets bigger scoped. I've reread it and I disagree now with my former opinion. I think it gets just better.
Okay.
But the fact of the matter is, I still love this arc.
Yeah.
It's like going back and looking at Bleach and just being like, wow, it's interesting to see these characters who are essentially 30-year-old adults by human standards, but hundreds of years old, like Kisuke. But it's funny to see these like older characters and understand more their mindset. Like, oh, they do care about this kid and they want to help him out. They just got to do tough love. It's
Yeah.
like their thing. But it's like Bleach has like a maturity to it.
Hmm.
Like Ichigo as a protagonist, like we're talking about Chainsaw Man. It's like Denji and Ichigo are the same age, but
Yeah.
like like Ichigo's goals are to just like live a peaceful life, which there's nothing wrong with that, and like just not get into too many things because he has a lot of regret for what happened to his mom.
Ichigo doesn't. The difference between Ichigo and the typical shonen protagonist is that he doesn't have that big thing that he's striving for. He doesn't have that ambition.
Yeah,
He's not trying to become Hokage. He's not trying to become king of the pirates. He's just kind of thrust into this situation, and his motivation is to protect people
he's an
from.
equalizer.
Yeah, his motivation is to protect the people that he cares about from hollows. He's very much like he's defined. His motivations are defined by the people around him. He's not out for selfish goals.
Like he only learns to continue fighting and push himself through all that just because there is a certain goal at hand. And that's why I like about Bleach is like even hitting the baseballs with Rukia. That was training. He took it 110% seriously. He was just like, I need to get this done.
Yeah, and she's like, "You weren't supposed
Why?
to hit every ball," and he's like, "I can't tell the difference between your fucking artwork."
Right?
Yeah, because it was like the faces or the paws, and they both look the same because Rikio can't draw.
But that's where I still see Yusuke and Ichigo being similar, is in that kind of resolve to like go back to normalcy.
I think
Like
the difference is that
like
when we meet Ichigo, he's further along in his development than Yusuke is when we meet him.
well, like I said, they have different backgrounds, like the dad and the mom. Like Yusuke's mom's an alcoholic lady who doesn't give a shit about him.
Yeah,
She does care about him, but you don't miss what you have till it's gone.
yeah,
But like what I mean is like what's interesting is like the two different ways and different stories and backgrounds that could lead to a similar route where it's like I just need to get this done because it's like not expected of me, but I know that I need to get this done. And it's
yeah,
that kind of like resolution and conviction to like achieving your goal, whether it's for yourself or for others. And Ichigo, I like how Ichigo's kind of like Yusuke and Josuke and all those other kind of like semi-delinquent types where it's just like, well, I just don't follow to the drum of society. I'm not like a gangster or whatever, but like I'm just a delinquent.
yeah. But he gets
You know,
good grades. He's not really a
yeah,
delinquent. Like
and,
like
and that's where we
people
start
assume
seeing
that
like
he
a lot of,
is.
and that's where it's interesting because like we've had this trope before of like the character like I said, and like you said, but he gets good grades,
Yeah,
and then you see Chad gets even better grades than him.
yeah,
Like there's a lot of these like stereotypes on character types that get kind of flipped in Bleach.
yeah.
Like Orihime's not a damsel in distress. She actively tries to be engaged in every situation, whether people want her to or not.
And the fact that like she comes off as kind of a ditzy anime chick, and then you find out that she's one of the smartest girls in the class, and she's not nearly as naive as she comes off. But
Yeah,
that's something that Kubo says that he designs when he writes characters. He's like, I always try and make their internal the opposite of their external. He wants it to be like a don't judge a book by its cover kind of thing, and he does that with almost all of his characters, which is something that I do appreciate about Kubo's writing.
really, a really easy example is Chad.
Yeah,
You see, they're like, "Where'd you get the bird?" And he's just like, "Guy gave it to me."
like I love
But
that.
then at his character page, and it says he likes to wear loud shirts. Loud being a term for like brightly colored.
Yeah,
So it's like that's a very pretty direct example what you said. Like I didn't know Kubo said that exactly, but it
Yeah.
makes sense. Like Chad likes loud shirts, quiet guy.
Yeah,
Very
exactly. And he's a quiet dude that dresses out. His entire physical appearance is intimidating, so he has to be kind of a gentle giant. And he just loves cute things, like the episode where Cone is being chased by the girl or whatever, and then Chad's just chasing him too, and he's like, "Why the hell are you chasing me?" And it just says Chad likes cute things. He just saw him, and he's like,
yeah.
"Oh, that's adorable." Yeah, but
I love that Kone's name is Kone because they're like, well, it's a Kaizai Konpaku, and
yeah,
that
and
mean it's either Kai or Cone, and Kai sounds too cool.
yeah,
Name him Cone.
yeah. Poor Cone. He gets shit on so much. Like his
But it's
his
like
life sucks. Like he is the butt monkey of this series.
he's kind of just like Denji.
Yeah. Like
He's just there, like, well, at least I have a body.
I love when the chapter opens and he's just being smacked against the wall, and it turns out Ichigo's trying to clean him by smacking him, and Ruki is like, "Don't do that to Kon. You clean him this way." And she steps on him and starts vacuuming him, and he's just getting just horribly abused.
Or like Ichigo's like, I wonder where Ruki is at, and then it like it's him standing over a toilet. That's how this scene's presented. Like Kubo draws one of the most immaculately accurate depictions of a toilet,
Yeah.
and then it leads to Cone being taped behind the toilet. And he's just like, I had to hear 3 tinkles and 2 loud plobs. Ichigo's just spraying him.
That was funny. But yeah, so another thing that I really like about this early arc is that I went in because there's all those cliches about Kubo about like how the story kind of got lost, it got away from him, he lost what it was originally about. But I kind of expected, because when you go into early arcs with shonen anime, there's a bunch of like inconsistencies because the story changes as it goes, and there's a lot
Like
of
they call Rukia calls her power dark power in the first chapter. Like,
yeah, but like
later it's probably Rietsu or whatever they use,
sure, but I think
it's just a minor one.
I think that was a translation issue. But the
Okay.
point that I'm trying to make is that when you go from Naruto or even like One Piece or something, the early chapters, there's always changes. There's always stuff that doesn't really vibe with what we know later. There's always like retcons and stuff. Whereas with Bleach, I was actually surprised by how tight it was and
No, yeah.
how consistent a lot of the explanations and stuff are in the early going are for like how stuff will pan out later. Like the 1,000-year blood arc is planted in the first arc. Like you learn about the Quincy's, you know why the Quincy's hate the Shinigami, and that whole fucking storyline is established early on. It's established early on. The more I read the early stuff, the more obvious it is that Ishin is actually a Soul Reaper. Like it becomes
Yeah,
pretty.
like the only part where you question it is when he gets beat up by the Hollow in the very beginning, but they even explain like he doesn't have his powers right away.
Yeah,
Like
like
he's just a normal snow.
well, yeah, Ishin is a Joe Schmo because he gave it up, but it's very clear that Ishin probably knows a little bit more than he's letting on, and I kind of realized that when when they're at Ichigo's mother's grave, and essentially Ishin tells Ichigo that it's not his fault for her death, and that's just an a crazy amount of clarity and realness from a character that had just kind of been goofy up until this point. And that's when I kind of realized that Kubo was like going to do something with his character. Same thing with Kisuke Urahara. You get the entire vibe from this that Kisuke Urahara knows a lot more than we're letting on. And we get this feeling that the Soul Society is this very complex political web that Ichigo knows nothing about, and we're just barely seeing through the peephole of it. Whereas like you don't realize how out of our element we are until Renji and Byakuya show up. And
Right from the get go, they introduce a new power system too, the Shikai. No hesitation.
yeah, they don't explain it
Like
in this arc though. He
yeah,
just does it.
he does his yeah, he just does it, and that's what I
Yeah,
love about it.
yeah.
Is like it's later explained like this. Yeah, it's kind of like
Because
a
Ren
lightweight JoJo's kind of pull, where you show something crazy and the explanation follows, like the
yeah.
reaction.
Yeah, and Renji it makes sense that Renji wouldn't explain it in that moment because like he's not going to explain his power to some fucking kid. Like Ichigo is nothing to Renji and Byakuya. You realize that like how small Ichigo really is in the grand scheme of things, and how he's about
The
to.
irony, you say that in a situation in which Renji's just like, "What the hell is wrong with your Zanpakuto? Like it's
Yeah,
so big," and Ichigo's just like, "I've never had anybody to compare it with."
yeah. But then you find out later that like that has
It's just bloated.
it's just bloated. Yeah, he's basically fighting with a giant sword balloon. Like it's like there's no density to it.
I love how they hint that and they keep explaining that like he has a lot of spirit power.
Yeah,
That's like a given. So he gets his protagonist power up that makes it feasible for a normal schmo to handle hopping into like these situations that a normal schmo should be able to handle.
yeah,
Like, oh, he has an overly big sword. He's very powerful. He's just unskilled.
yeah,
And then you find out one of his biggest skills is learning quickly. Like Ichigo, I think that's like people pull that whole like Ichigo learns too quickly, he just handles things too quickly, and it's like all the characters in our series are in like the top 20 of their class.
hmm,
Like they're intelligent characters. That's why I think like the whole dumb luck figuring it out just instinct thing falls on a lot of people because it's so used.
yeah,
Like we could talk about like how Luffy has gained some of his power ups just like mid fight, you know, but that could be attributed to his battle instinct. Whereas like with Bleach, it's like Ichigo does have that innate instinct, but he also is intelligent. He's
yeah,
also thoughtful. He's strategic. There's a lot of good. Like I think honestly, he has a lot more good qualities about him than negative qualities. I
yeah,
know that a lot of authors like to give their characters weaknesses along with strengths. Like Luffy's a dunderhead who doesn't get social cues, and oh blah blah blah. Same with Goku, but
yeah,
they're really smart in battle.
yeah,
Whereas with Ichigo, it's like he has no experience in battle.
yeah,
He doesn't have that killer instinct.
hmm,
He just wants to get it done, and
yeah,
he uses his intelligence not only to find the people to properly train him, but also to apply that training really well.
yeah. And he's an
And
he's an unusually grounded shonen protagonist. Like he seems like he's kind of like he's got a good head on his shoulders. He's not reckless. Well, he's kind of reckless, but he seems more self-aware and more thoughtful than a lot of other shonen protagonists. He's not portrayed as just like a fucking crazy fight junkie like someone like Goku or Luffy or Naruto.
I was gonna say the only fault that I really not the only, but one of the bigger faults I see with him is his recklessness. But I think he does it out of desperation.
Yeah.
He's a character who's a desperate character, and that's what I like about him. Like the whole plot of Bleach is based off of like hoping these characters can get through these situations, but they're usually like almost every battle in Bleach is an underdog battle,
Hmm.
and like that's one thing that I like about Ichigo is like Kubo can actually draw the looks of desperation in his eyes in a serious fight. Like
Yeah.
he doesn't smile. He does smile in some fights, and he gets cocky. But that the look that I love seeing on Ichigo's face when he fights is like that desperate, like if I don't do this, like it's a very like
Well, see,
I don't know. It's kind of like it's like Endgame RPG every saga. Like
I feel
he's
like I feel like in a lot of ways, like I get what you're saying. I understand that, but I really don't think Kubo starts doing that until the end of this arc. I feel like
yeah.
most of the battles in this arc, Ichigo has a clear advantage. Like he should win like most of the fights, and he doesn't seem to have a problem with most of the hollows. And even if he does get into a little bit of trouble, you're never really afraid for Ichigo up until he fights Byakuya and Renji and realizes what's
Well,
actually
well,
out there.
well. The Manos. He looks worried going up against the Manos
Yeah,
about his
but look at how
Sarah.
but by the time he actually fights it, look at how confident he is when
But
the when the Manos shoots the Sero at him and he blocks it.
that's what I mean though. Is like he's a mature character.
Yeah,
Like once he gets to Renji and Byakuya, he's cocky at first because he's like, I need to do this. It
yeah,
doesn't matter. I need to succeed. I can't fail or else Ruki is done.
yeah. But that's
And
the first
yeah,
battle he really
you could
loses.
argue whether that was genuine, like he was sure of himself, or like he was like not sure of himself entirely.
But that's the thing.
But
I don't think he's ever been sure of himself. I
that,
think he's always
that's
somebody that
but
just like has to wing it.
that's what I mean though. Is like when he eventually does lose to them and is spared, he lets out a cry of like anguish, not pain or anything. Like fuck.
Yeah,
Like And I think that was a good turning point for his character, is giving him that defeat in that kind of way, because it's like during the fight he realizes like, oh shit, I'm outclassed.
Yeah.
Like he looks at Byakuya and sees a sword in his hand. He's like, wait, what? And I think that was the turning point. Because you think like he has at least a chance against this guy whose shtick is changing his sword. He's fought enemies who change their weapons,
Yeah.
but now he's been completely disarmed.
Yeah.
Even if he wanted to fight, he couldn't.
Byakuya is in a different universe.
He severed the entire chance that Ichigo could ever get close to him by breaking his sword, like
yeah.
right at the hilt.
He
And
might as well have gone off and broken off his dick. Like it's like basically like you're nothing to me.
yeah, he declawed him.
Yeah.
Like there was nothing he could do about it, you know?
Yeah. But that's when he truly felt weak because he couldn't protect Rukia, and he realized that like, oh shit, like if I'm going to actually help people and save this person, I'm going to have to get a hell of a lot stronger. That's the first time he realized that like the what he was doing up until this point, even though he got through his battles, it's not going to work in the long term, and he really has to fucking train and learn how to control his power. Hey Corey, your mic cut out, bro.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah.
It wasn't even that, just that too. Like Rukia covered his ass.
Yeah, Rukia saved him.
Like all on like that cry of anguish was just like, shit. She saved me for another day, but I was supposed to save her.
Yeah.
And he was a damsel in distress in that situation for a minute.
Yeah.
Like, well, I need to save him. And that's why I really like this arc, because it ends up like a kind of all is lost moment. Like, if you have the hero's journey, they kind of place like that point kind of close before the end of it to start the new arc, and it
Yeah.
actually works really well to have all that development and then finally have that point a little bit later,
Yeah.
especially with having smart characters and being. I like the way he does training montages too. Like it's just implied that he fought Kisuke for days on end, and Kisuke tried to kill him.
Yeah.
That was their training.
Yeah. And I kind of want to talk about Kisuke Urahara a little bit because obviously we don't know at this point in the story, we don't know what his origins are. We don't know what his relationship to the Soul Society is. We know he's kind of a confidant to Rukia and he cares about her, but I like that Ichigo loses the battle. Then Kisuke basically picks him up and tells him like, "Hey, I just want to let you know I let you fight that battle because I wanted you to see how strong these people were and I needed you to lose and get humbled a little bit. And now we could actually start training you." And I like how we don't know what Kisuke's motivations are. We don't know why he wants to save Rukia. We don't know why he's actually sending him to Soul Society. And this is like kind of the beginning of a running theme in Bleach of like, Ichigo is essentially just a pawn for the political games of a bunch of other characters. Like Ichigo kind of gets tossed around and kind of gets used for other people's fucking shit. Like you see that with Aizen later, obviously, but like this is sort of like the beginning of like you really feel like Ichigo is just a small part of a much bigger thing, and he's just kind of being used as a tool by other characters to fulfill their ends. You know what is kind of interesting? You know how Kubo originally wanted to use Kisuke Urahara?
How's that?
So he wanted his original plan for the Soul Society arc was that because in the Soul Society arc, Aizen ends up like it's the whole murder mystery where Aizen gets killed, but it's actually him that's killing
You're
people.
skipping ahead, sir.
I know, but I just want to throw this little bit of trivia out there. Originally, he wanted Kisuke Urahara to be the murderer.
Yeah. You kind of get that vibe. Like, can we trust this guy? Can we not trust him?
Yeah.
But and a great like way to throw that off is like you have Ruki as a character.
Mm-hmm.
She's the one who gets Ichigo kind of in this situation.
Yeah,
So
she's the one that with
she's genuine and sincere, so it makes it harder to believe that it makes it even more complicated. Be like, well, was she part of a plan? What if she was unknowingly part of a plan?
Yeah.
Who knows? Like, who's the guy? Who's the puppet monster?
Exactly.
That's why rereading Bleach is fun, because once you get to a certain point, you could reread it and be like, oh wow, like retconning or not, or like referencing earlier material and giving it more of like validity later on isn't like cheesy. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and
Like Oda gets praised for that stuff all the time. Like, and the funny thing about it is you have people sit there and argue like, well, hockey's always been in One Piece. It's just like we haven't been able to see it till Luffy gets it to be able to see it. And it's
yeah.
like, that may be true, that may be not. What we do know is that we didn't see hockey in the Whitebeard battle, and we see it later on. So you know that's like a thing where your world's already so developed, and then you add a power system.
Yeah,
That's more arguable. But with Bleach, like you said, it's incremental, small dosages of this world being built. Like the world building's like step by step by step, more like a Gundam. Like
sure, yeah.
kind of
It
piecing it
builds
together and
on
getting more
itself.
of an idea of it.
And then I
And
sorry, keep
so,
going. My bad.
oh yeah, so like with Kisuke, what I think's awesome is at the end of the first chapter, those little blank page snippets he draws.
Yeah, those
You
little
see
post
Kisuke
chapter
in
things.
that. You see his foot over Rukia and Ichigo
Oh,
because
really?
he's the first one on scene to help him out. So he was introduced at the end of that chapter on that blank page
At the
because
end
you
of
see the
the
bottom of
at the end of
yeah,
the first chapter in the manga, he's introduced.
yeah. It's on that blank
Interesting.
page. You see his foot and the bottom of his like outfit over Rukia and Ichigo after Ichigo fought the Hollow and passed out.
Okay, interesting. I never
Yeah.
noticed that.
And then later on, you find out the shady guy that Rukia met. You see the shady guy introduced, and then later on, you find out he met up and helped Rukia. But if you recognize part of his outfit and all that, you'd see it as somebody who met with her right after that thing.
Yeah,
So it's kind of cool foreshadowing that of his character, like this ominous just foot stepping into the plot on
yeah.
this like blank page, no mention or anything.
There's also one page that I want to find and put on here, but like it's not mentioned, but there's a brief moment where Ruki is having kind of an internal monologue and thinking about Soul Society, and you can briefly see Jushiro Yukitake.
For Captain,
Yeah, yeah.
that would make sense.
There's a scene where she's like thinking about her life in Soul Society, and like you see like a figure talking to her, and then you just see him from behind, and I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be Jushiro Yukitake. The fact that Oda put that, or sorry, not Oda, Kubo put that character in so early and didn't explain it at all is kind of a fun little bonus of like, oh shit, like if you've already read the series, then you kind of know who that is. I'll put the page up so that people could see it, but like yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's supposed to be Jushiro.
Yeah, I gotta see it again.
Yeah.
But like that's the thing too is Bleach doesn't have a lot of it has a lot of good foreshadowing,
Mm-hmm.
so that it can set up things, and then at the same time like the whole Renji and Byakuya showing up, and Ichigo is like not even like probably a level 5 by this point. He's
Yeah.
like, I'm just getting out of the starting zone, and here are two guys that's a captain level and a lieutenant
Yeah,
level.
but by Soul Society standards, Ichigo would not even be a seated officer. He is like
Yeah,
he is very much like it'd be like if you threw like a guy whose first fight in the UFC was against Israel Adesanya. It would be a complete mismatch.
like Ikaku without without his Zanpakuto could have taken out Ichigo.
Yeah, easily.
Like I don't even need my sword. I'm just gonna punch you to death. But
Yeah.
it's crazy that you find out. Oh well, if anybody goes from Soul Society to the human world, they get a power limiter put on.
Yeah.
So then you're still able to keep those characters relevant and their powers relevant without having to be like, oh, they're Ichigo's overly OP. Like that's what I like about it too is they hindered other he directly hindered some of his characters' actual abilities to justify his protagonist's weakness
Yeah.
without having to give some kind of weird philosophical reason. Like Byakuya tried to kill him,
Yeah.
so did Renji. The only reason they didn't was because Kisuke was watching and was hoping that they'd mess up somehow, or I don't know, luck. I'm gonna just put luck on that. Like there was probably a lot of factors at hand that nobody understood going on there until later. But like at the end of the day, it's like you know I don't feel like there's a lot of ass pulls in this series. I feel like they're just pulls. Like well, it just kind of comes. And this series, especially being a JoJo's reader, like if you're going to talk about ass pulls,
Hmm.
like because that was something I always heard as a criticism of Bleach is like, oh well, Ichigo just pulls out a power up all the time, and like the all of Hueco takes place like not even within like like a summer vacation time, and he gets to be like super OP and stuff, and same with Soul Society, like blah blah blah,
Yeah.
and I'm just like that's the thing though is like the way his growth is going is more off of like battle experience, like not like a video game, but akin to like a role playing thing where it's like an RPG, where it's like every battle he goes through and survives, he learns something, he gains something, he gets to train, and all that. It just seems like very natural and flowing for like all the characters,
Yeah. Well,
And
I think the difference is that like for me it makes sense with him, and we'll get into this in the later episodes obviously with all of his power-ups and shit, but like you look at the captains and they've all been training for thousands of years, so even if they have a less of a power cap, they have much more battle experience than Ichigo does, whereas Ichigo has this ridiculous level of power flowing out of him. He never becomes more powerful as the series goes on, he just learns to control the power that he already has. So that's why his power seems to fluctuate so much, because he's having such a tough time having the experience to be able to use it properly. That's why he's not getting power ups. He's just using the power that was already there.
yeah, it's like starting a game with a hacked character. You
Yeah.
don't know how to play the game at all,
Exactly.
but
You don't know the controls, so having a fucking hacked character doesn't mean anything.
but it's like even Yusuke was a hacked character.
Yeah.
If you go by certain plots. But I mean,
I
like,
feel like all shonen protagonists have to be in some way.
yeah, it's very far few between you find like entirely average Joe Schmo being not that. They usually even have to have like a personality quirk that sets them aside.
Yeah.
Because if you'd have I am neutral about this situation. You are technically correct. The most correct form of correct.
Yeah.
Not.
Like if Naruto were about just some average ninja, the story wouldn't be as interesting. Like what if Naruto were about fucking
People do that. They write freaking fanfics about like what that dude who took him to go get ramen does.
yeah, what's that guy's name again?
Nobody
Um
cares.
I, Iruka. Yeah, if Naruto was about it,
Aruka, like
yeah.
people like they were like, I want an Aruka side story where he just walks around, buys groceries, and like
uh,
yes, those things are great. They show our characters are people,
but you can't
but
build the entire story around it.
yeah, and that's what I like about Kubo. Like he gets it very clear that Orihime's intelligent, but she's also eccentric. Like your future self. Like she's obviously smart enough to know that like what she'd do in the future as a job or whatever maybe.
Yeah.
But when she took the project Your Future Self, she took it like in a funny direction
Yeah. And
where
I
she drew herself as a robot and stuff. And
yeah,
it's like like she's not stupid. She's just funny. She's
yeah,
silly.
she's quirky.
Yeah.
She's just like a quirky, fun girl that you would want to know. But fucking okay, so one thing that I also really like about this first arc is kind of how the Soul Society is portrayed, and how even though Ichigo is the protagonist, when you kind of look at things from the Soul Society's perspective, like they're kind of right. Like the fact that Rukia went to Earth, was irresponsible, got basically like attacked by a hollow, gave her powers to some fucking dude, and then that guy couldn't control his powers, so his powers fucking leaked out everywhere, and now random humans are getting full bring powers basically. Like
If you want to put it in a normal sense, it would be like a sheriff in a town, a small town, got attacked and somebody shot like the perpetrator with their gun, and he's
yeah,
like, "You are now the sheriff
yeah,
until I'm not injured anymore."
yeah,
And then like the county shows up and they're like, or well, I don't know, whoever shows up, they're like, "Who's this person?
yeah.
You just made them the sheriff? All right, yeah, you guys are both in trouble." Like,
Yeah, and like I also love that like there's a I just want to describe this sequence because I think it's some genius bit of character writing where it starts out with Byakuya and Renji going to attack Rukia, and they're like, "What are you looking at?"
oh, I was just thinking.
Oh yeah, but yeah, so it starts with Byakuya and Renji going to attack Rukia, and they portray Renji as this kind of crazy guy that's got bloodlust, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I hope we get to kill her," and then
He's like
later,
a monkey. he's sitting up on the wall, all hunched up like a monkey.
Yeah,
We don't
but
even know we don't even know what his Zanpakuto is yet,
yeah,
but
but like
they likes to show him like all wild.
yeah, and at the very beginning they portray him as like he wants to kill Rukia. Then later on you realize that it was kind of an act and he's actually like really good friends with her and he was just kind of fucking with her. Like the fact that they've known each other for a long time and when she's in her cell and he's talking to her and he's like, chill out. You're probably not going to be executed. Like, I mean, it's like
He
Byakuya.
shows up on his day off
Yeah, and he's
in
like,
his day off clothes.
yeah, and like she makes fun of him for being a lieutenant now and like getting a promotion and like he's like you could tell they've known each other for a really long time and he's basically like, yeah, like Byakuya is your brother, you're gonna get your sentence commuted, and she's like, do you know Byakuya? He's gonna come execute me himself. And like then you realize that like later on like how serious of a situation it really is, and Byakuya really did go and like tried to have her executed, and now it's like everyone's in deep shit because like Renji doesn't want that to happen, Rukia doesn't want that to happen, even though she's like kind of resigned to her fate. But it becomes a thing where it's like it's kind of an extreme decision made by a bureaucratic organization that's essentially like making an example out of this person. And there's a bunch of people in that organization who we find have a bunch of different opinions about whether this is the right thing to do. Like it's like Soul Society isn't just like you get a little hint of it, but you get more of it later of just like it's not a black and white. These are the bad guys, and Ichigo has to save Rukia from the bad guys. It's very much like no, this is a complex web of a bunch of different factions and a bunch of different people that are working together in the same structure, but all of these different people are going to have their own opinions and values and thoughts about what's actually going on.
Well, yeah, I mean it's a military structure.
Yeah,
Like as much as there are non-seated officer grunts that run around, like we do have all these characters who are like different levels of duty and who they report to. Like
yeah,
11th Company doesn't even report to anybody. I don't think even if the Central 46 told 11th Company to do something they want them to do, they wouldn't do if they didn't want to.
yeah. 11th Company, that's Zeraki's division, right?
Yeah, or Kenpachi's. So it's
Yeah.
like, he'd be like, you want me to do that? All right, cool. If it's like fighting, if it's not fighting, you'd probably be like, has some other stupid division do it.
Yeah.
But then like you look at Byakuya's, like the sixth company, and it's just like that's with like Renji and Byakuya, the sixth company were sent to get Rukia
Mm-hmm.
of the 13th company. So like
Rukia.
right there, you're kind of it's kind of weird. Like maybe they were sent because he's related, but then they make it clear like, okay, like, well, did Renji and Byakuya personally request to go get Rukia?
I, I
Wasn't that
I don't know because I haven't reread the Soul Society arc yet. But my assumption, just based on going on the 70 chapters that I read in the Agent of Shinigami arc, my assumption is probably Byakuya probably felt it as like a shame on his family that his sister was going out and breaking the law. So he was probably like, I have to make it right by bringing her to justice myself. Because the Byakuya is a very buttoned up, old fashioned kind of like honor bound character.
Well,
Like,
he looks young, but we have to keep in mind these are all like hundreds of year old characters whose most of their time has been spent in like what is essentially feudal Japan
yeah,
in the afterlife.
yeah,
Like they don't even have TV or radio, even though they can.
yeah,
They just act like it's like, I don't know, 16, 1700. I don't know. I'm not good with history.
yeah. But yeah, it's very much like probably Edo period, I'm guessing, is what it's based off of. But fucking and I also like how just you realize the cultural difference in Soul Society when Ichigo grabs Byakuya's fucking robe and rips it, and Rukia snaps at him. And I think it was a genuine reaction where she's like, "How dare you even touch
Well,
my?"
he said Byakuya, when he grabbed it, was like, so you want to lose that hand.
Yeah,
And Rukia was like, "Oh shit," and stepped in
yeah,
because she knew how severe of a crime he just pulled
yeah. But
on
but but
Byakuya.
and her
I don't
reaction.
I don't think I don't think her reaction was as a Soul Society person. It was as Ichigo's friend, like, "Oh shit, you don't realize you just spat on the ground in the Middle East." Like,
But I
you
think
know,
I think it was both. I think it was Ichigo's friend, but I also think her reaction of like, "How dare you even touch my brother's clothing?" is like very much of like, dude, like you're my friend and I like you, but know your fucking place. And
no,
I,
I don't think it was that at all.
you don't think it was that at all?
No, I don't think it. I just read that part and it totally was like, you do not know how bad you messed up. Like you do not know the culture and the rules.
Yeah,
Like It's like having a friend come visit at like a country club and like they pull some shit and you're just like, oh god, you're gonna get us both, like my whole family, kicked out,
But
and
you know
you're probably gonna get thrown in jail.
but
You know, like
you don't think there was some genuine embarrassment on Rukia's side that she's associated with
no.
this dude? Ah, dude, I totally think there
I
was.
think she was afraid, and I think she was just like, why would you do that? Like if that like that was the thing. Like she was just like, and mostly most of her reaction comes like you see Ichigo grab it, and then it's like Rukia and Byakuya's equal reaction on him grabbing it, which Rukia is like, oh god, you never do that.
Yeah. But
And
I just
Byakuya is just like, oh, so you just want to lose your hand then, like
uh,
sarcastically. And that's why she reacts, because she's like, oh god, I know what's going to happen. He's going to totally cut this dude's arm off,
yeah.
like right here now.
See, I
And
no, I
she
think
understands that if any person did that to Byakuya, I think she would just be like, "Why would you do that?" And I think that's more the feeling. It wasn't like a shame or embarrassment. I think it was just a genuine like, why the hell would you do something so obvious, which would be like grabbing that, like that genuine fear, like walking in the crosswalk, just going outside of something that you would normally be like, logically, no one would do that. That's like a big indicator that Ichigo's different too, is
see
that no
I'm
one in
gonna
Soul Society would grab Byakuya's cloak, but Ichigo did, and I think that's what was the thing. It was jarring to Rukia to see somebody put up that kind of disrespect and resistance against him.
I'm
I think
gonna
that was the thing. I think it was just no matter what Ichigo did, the fact that like he was super disrespectful to him, and she is ingrained to respect him as like the head of the family. So seeing somebody who's close to her outright just be like, I don't care about like societal norms. Like, that's my friend you're talking to. And she's just like, this is not the time to have that opinion. He is going to kill you. Like,
yeah.
oh my God, no one in their right mind would ever do this at all. And I think that's the thing. I think like it was just so jarring to see somebody, let alone somebody as weak as Ichigo, lay a hand on him in a disrespectful manner,
Yeah.
because no one in their right mind who would know who he is would ever do that if they were in his position.
Yeah, and I
And
think
that really shows like how little Ichigo knows about Rukia and everything going on. And I think that's why she had to commit to being like, he's just an idiot who doesn't know what's going on. I snapped out of it. Let's go. Like, I think that was what she realized, was like, oh my God, this dude has no idea what he's in. I was trying to help you and like spare you from this. So she had to go and be cruel to him so that she could kind of sell it to Byakuya
see
to spare him.
I
Because
think
I don't think there was any personal like, how dare you disrespect my brother thing.
see
Because
I
if
just
if she had that mindset, she would have immediately tried to get a hold of Soul Society and try to rectify it in like a by the books kind of way.
well no
So
no
I think
Corey.
I honestly don't think it was like a how dare you touch my brother. I snapped out of it, like, because like later on she's BSing with Renji like, he's gonna kill me anyways, and good for you,
But
dude.
no. So Corey, I'm not disagreeing with anything you said. I just think it's both. I think the reaction was genuine, and I think it was genuine disgust, and I think it was also like I think she was feeling so many things in that moment that it was probably like there was a combination of like I'm trying to save your life and also like how dare you fucking do that, you're just a human. I think there was some classism there. Like I really do. I think that I don't think it was all that. I think she genuinely cared about Ichigo. I think she was trying to save his life, but I think there was a tinge of like are you fucking serious? You're embarrassing me right now. Like I really think it was both.
I don't even think it was like the embarrassing thing. I think like the tinge of classism just came straight up from like the fact that she was like, there are rules to
Yeah.
Soul
See,
Society, and
look what she
there's
says. Look right here. She says, "You're a mere human. How dare you touch my brother's shikusho? Know your place, boy." Like I think there was a genuine like I don't think all of that. I don't think it was just an act. I think that there was a genuine fucking like not. I guess disgust is too strong of a word, but I think there was a genuine like dude, seriously, don't fucking do that. Like, you have no idea what you're doing. But like, that's the thing. I'm not.
chapter was that? I just want to go and look at it again later.
That was chapter 56, and I'm gonna put the graphic on here. But yeah, like I said, I don't disagree with your interpretation at all. I just think there's also what I'm saying in there. I think it's a combination of both things.
Yeah, see, Ichigo stands there, grabs his thing, and is like, "I can't hear you when you, I can't hear you. Look at me when you talk." So he's like, Ichigo's already being a disrespectful dude, like by this
Yeah.
point. Like, and what's it called? Byakuya even points out like maybe you have like kind of a bias towards him because he looks like Kyan, you
Yeah,
know.
well, he doesn't say the words
So
Kayan, which is interesting. He just says, "Oh yeah, I get why you like this dude. I see that he looks like Kayan, basically." But anyway,
see that's
that's
why I think this
that's
was a tough
so
look.
so
I
Corey.
don't think there's a tinge of I'm looking at right now. It just seems like well he's gonna lose his hand. I gotta kick it away and be a dick, you know.
Yeah, and I think
But I don't know.
I think because Kubo doesn't spell out exactly what Ruki is thinking, all we have to go on our words and actions, and I think it's open to interpretation what she's feeling at
Yeah.
that moment. So I think
I mean, I
I
think
think we can
yeah. With
both
the
be
following chapters, it's easier to make assumptions. But
yeah.
as you read it week to week, I
Yeah.
bet you're just like, huh.
Yeah, I honestly think we can both be right on this one, if that's okay with you.
I'll share it, I guess.
All right. Um, but yeah, no, it was chapter 56, page 12. For
What
anyone that
was
wants
it?
to go look it
One
up.
of my favorite comments on a shitpost Crusaders post was like somebody brought up the Josuke Part 8 boner scene, and somebody was like, "What are you talking about?" And they're like, "In the manga, it's chapter 2, page 14. In the colored version of the manga, it's the same chapter, but page 15." And they're like, "Dude, you had it memorized down to like the exact page and everything." They're like, "I'm a big fan." And I was like, "That's pretty great." So that's what it just reminded me of. But we have totally forgotten about the Chads other than Chad of the series.
Who else? Who are the other Chads?
Kago,
And Mizuru
Mizuru.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, the two, the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern of Bleach.
Essentially just like, hey, what's going on, guys? Oh, we're just all being thoughtful about Ichigo.
Yeah,
That's weird. We're gonna go do our own thing, I guess. All right,
yeah,
we're gonna just sit and think about Ichigo. Okay.
yeah. I
That was
like.
that was the only like thing that really got like kind of got to me was like, what'd you invite me over for, Orihime? I just want to talk about Ichigo. And it just reminded me of Rick and Morty, where like Rick's laying there like, Morty, you have to come up with an idea where it's two women talking and they can't talk about a man. And I'm just like, all right, yeah, like I don't know. It just seemed like you had to have two characters to explain this backstory. Like,
Yeah,
you
Bleach
know,
Bleach
it just
Bleach
it
doesn't exactly pass the Bechtel test.
no, I'm not saying it needs to. It's just like to go that far, like it could have I don't know, it was just a very clunky way to go about it. Like, let's
Yeah.
eat cake and talk about Ichigo and the trauma he suffered on this day.
That
And like
was a little bit
it's like
clunky.
Grand Fisher arc. It's like I feel like just Rukia talking to the sisters, like, why are you guys here at the cemetery? Oh, our mom died this day. It was really weird. Ichigo is blah blah. But that's what we heard. Like Rukia talking to the family would have been a more competent way for me to intake the information that Ichigo suffered the loss of his mother versus like some girl in his karate class going like he always was so happy and then his mom died and then he was sad and I'm like no shit. But if it was like Rukia asking the sisters, then like you'd have this like familial personal weight coming out of it where it's like, oh well, we're here because our mother passed away. Oh, that's why he asked for this day off. I was just thinking he was sneaking off to have fun or something.
Mhm.
And then like Ishin, like that's the weird thing. Ishin and Rukia, like he sees Rukia, right? I don't think they ever met really. Did they?
I
Did
don't
they
know.
ever really talk and meet in the first arc? I don't think they did.
Yeah, because she would recognize him if.
Yeah.
Well, they had to have seen each other. But maybe,
Only at the cemetery, right? And not really though.
well, I
Well,
mean,
kind
that's a good question because
of.
she would have been around when he was a Soul Reaper. Maybe she just didn't recognize him. Maybe they just never really crossed paths in Soul Society. It's a big
He's
army.
a Shiba.
A what?
Ishin's a Shiba.
A Shiba?
Kurisaki's his maiden name, or Shiba's his maiden name. He took his wife's name.
He is a Shiba. Oh fuck! So they would know each other.
Yeah,
That is a big plot hole.
it's. I don't think it's a plot hole. I think they didn't meet. I think it was very strategic. Like
Well,
she shows up. This is Ichigo immediately goes and meets Rukia at the cemetery. That was a close call.
we don't see them in the same room, but she was living with Ichigo. She would have seen his dad or heard his
She did see his
voice.
dad, but
What?
he probably would have known her more so than she would have known him.
But
No,
if he was a no, she would have recognized him if he was a Shiba.
like your dad's one of those captains. The most
Maybe
powerful people that don't pop up too often.
maybe it's like a Clark Kent thing where it's like we don't recognize him as Superman when he has his glasses on because we're not looking for it.
There's no way that idiot's your dad. Or there's no way that idiot of your dad is an ex Captain Shinigami person. It
Yeah.
has to be.
Well, because it's like maybe
He also doesn't have any powers.
because Ichigo looks like Cayenne. So she might just be like, "Oh, that guy kind of looks like fucking what's his face," but she probably doesn't think about any of it because Ishin's personality is so different when he's with Ichigo. Than like, okay, we're trying to justify this, but I really think it was just a Kubo forgot moment. I really
Which
think,
is fine. Like he doesn't have a lot of those, surprisingly. There's a lot
surprisingly,
of like there's and that's the thing. I think the word retcon doesn't really apply a lot to this series because it's more like recycling previous ideas and expanding upon them and like making them interesting. Like
yeah,
the whole idea of gi guys being a big deal later on. Like gi guys are just what people use to walk around the human world, but then you find out they have a major significance to the plot, like
yeah.
which then draws Kisuke more into the plot. There's
Okay,
like there's a lot of seeds being planted in the first arc
yeah,
that he could work with later on.
like,
That's what I think
like,
really strengthens his writing. Like the whole like how does Chad's power work? Like
yeah,
we don't know how his power works as much as Orihime's power.
yeah,
And then, over time we start to piece together certain things.
yeah,
And like, okay, I just want to point out Chad's introduction to like having powers is one of my favorite arcs because he's like he can't see anything. So he's just punching like randomly in the air, just like
yeah.
Ruki is like, you're not even close.
Yeah, yeah, but they end up having teamwork and they defeat it. But like, I think one of my favorite, another thing that I appreciate of like that kind of proves to me that Kubo is planting some seeds is the fact that Ichigo doesn't kill Grand Fisher in this arc. The fact that Grand Fisher gets away and Ichigo and Kubo basically has this card and he puts it in his side deck. He's like, we're gonna save this for later, and I'm gonna do something with Grand Fisher way later. But we're gonna make sure that the Ichigo that killed or the hollow that killed Ichigo's mom is not going to be defeated right now because I
He
got plans
introduces
for
the
this guy.
Espada in that arc.
Not the Espada. He introduces an Arankar.
Or yeah, wrong card.
Like we don't know what an Arankar is, but it
We
shows
just see
Grand Fisher
more.
as an
We just
Arankar.
see more humany looking hollows, and we're
Yeah,
like, oh, they could get more humany looking. Maybe that means something.
yeah. So he's definitely had his seeds planted. He kind of knew where he wanted the story to go. But if the execution was kind of stumbly later, then I forgive him for that. But like honestly, like yeah, there's a surprising amount of seeds planted in this arc for like all three of the subsequent arcs. Like you got a bunch of seeds planted for Soul Society. You got some seeds planted for Hueco Mundo because Hueco Mundo is actually fucking mentioned. Like they mention that the hollows come from Hueco Mundo, but they never describe what it is. And then you have a bunch of seeds planted for the Thousand Year Blood War. So he basically he's watering this tree right now. Like he knows where he wants the story to go. Anyway, I think. Do you have anything else to add for Bleach, or do you think we pretty much covered it for this arc?
I think we covered it.
Okay, yeah, I think we did a pretty thorough job for this one. Next week we're going to be talking about the Soul Society arc. So until then, watch the Bleach anime, but definitely read the manga.